friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the banana plant, this lovely thing right here, full of tropical vibes. Very exciting, perfect plant to make your home feel like a tropical paradise. Really quick though, before we get into the care, I just want to say, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I hope you enjoy this video as well. Right, let's get into it. So if you've bought your banana plant as an indoor plant, it is most likely going to be a Musa Dwarf Cavendish. That is the most common type of indoor banana plant that you will find. It'll almost certainly be a dwarf banana plant no matter what you get for indoors, because banana plants in the wild, and like if they're growing outside, grow freaking huge, like meters and meters and meters tall. The dwarf ones can still grow up to like 2 meters tall, but they will be a lot more appropriately sized for indoors. So if you are trying to buy an indoor plant and it doesn't say it's a dwarf, beware, they might get freaking huge. So it's just a dwarf. It is important to note though that if you're growing one indoors, it is likely not going to fruit. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but the likelihood of it fruiting indoors is very, very slim, so don't buy your indoor banana plant expecting that you're going to grow bananas out of it, because that's probably not gonna happen. But oh my goodness, I have had such a journey with this plant, and the fact that it looks like this now is just so amazing to me. It was not looking like this for so long. I did have a massive underwatering issue with this one. I think when I went away for Christmas in 2021, I was away for like 3 weeks and I forgot to water this one beforehand, and I came home and it looked terrible. So it was a proper mess, and this plant was not happy with me after that, and at some point I struggled with it so much that I ended up pretty much chopping it down to like a single leaf. I just like peeled away each of the leaves on the stem, and it just had one measly leaf on it. It was very sad. I think that was around March time. I was really struggling with this plant, almost to the point where I was planning on throwing it away because I just couldn't take it anymore. But I was patient and persistent and did a lot better job watering it, and by September time it was starting to look like a lot more of a full plant. It grew quite quickly and put out tons of growth, and now I guess another 5 months later, it is looking quite big and tropical and gorgeous, and the pups are growing in great. So it is quite a fast grower, faster than I would expect for a lot of other plants that have gone through such a trauma. I'm just really happy that I have this plant back, and I feel like I've gotten quite a good handle on how to take care of it now, which makes me feel good and makes my banana plant feel good. So we're all good here. Light is super duper important for your banana plant. They love a bit of light, especially if you're in the UK like I am. They can handle pretty much full sun here because our sun isn't that intense, especially indoors. If your plant is behind a window, it's probably not getting like really harsh rays of sunlight all the time. But if you live in a warmer climate or somewhere where the sun like really beats down hot, you probably want to keep it in more of a partial shade environment or bright indirect light. That would be preferable. These leaves, especially the new ones and like young plants, can burn if they're in too intense of light. So maybe during the summertime you pull it a bit further away from the window just to make sure that you don't burn the leaves. They can also tolerate lower lights as well if you can't give them that like really nice bright light that they like desire ideally, but they will end up growing slower and probably not sizing up as fast as you might want them to. So it's possible, just be aware that you might not be growing your ideal plant in those conditions. I personally keep mine right in front of a southwest facing window. I swear it's like 20 centimeters away from it, and that is perfectly fine for this one. Like I said, because I'm in the UK, the sun rays are not that intense. If we even have sunlight, which we don't half the time, So I'm giving it the brightest possible location in my home. Potentially during the summer months, if it's getting to like really, really hot, like high 30s, I think that's like 90 Fahrenheit. Those temperatures, I might pull it further away just so it doesn't burn, but for the most part, I will be keeping this right up next to the window because it's gonna be perfectly fine with that. Just be careful though not to leave it like pressed up against the window because that can burn the leaves as well, especially if it's hot. You can also grow these under grow lights. I personally don't have a grow light on mine and it's been absolutely fine. But if you need to have a grow light to give it the light that it needs, that's perfectly fine, and I think it will definitely thank you for that. Banana plants are fairly thirsty plants because they are quite quick growers. They go through water quite quickly, so you'd probably water it a little bit more than your average house plant. I tend to water this one when the soil is like 50 to 75% dry. If you let it dry further than that, it can wilt. So it might show you that it is thirsty. Sometimes I let it get to that point, unfortunately, but so far it's not been an issue with this one. It will just perk back up once it has been watered. I'm pretty sure though if you let it wilt too often, it can cause permanent damage, so avoid underwatering for prolonged periods of time because it could look like this. Yes, this is my plant. Yes, I massively underwatered it, and yes, it did look like crap. So do be aware of that. Also, when you are watering, you want to make sure you water thoroughly and let it drain out the bottom of the drainage holes. If your plant is sitting in a puddle of water at the bottom, if the roots are submerged in water for long periods of time, it can cause them to rot and your plant will die. So that would be considered overwatering. Don't do that if you can. You will likely water your plant a bit more often in the spring and summer because it's warmer, your plant is growing more, and it'll be going through that water faster than in the autumn and winter. So it's best to test the soil when it comes to creating your watering routine rather than going with a specific period of time, because that isn't as reliable and it will change depending on your home, your environment, the sun, like the weather. So it's best to go off of soil dryness rather than a strict time schedule with these ones. They will thrive the most in warmer temperatures, like 18 to 27 degrees Celsius or 65 to 80 Fahrenheit. That is their ideal. Anything warmer than that should be okay as long as it's not getting super harsh sun and it's not for like super prolonged periods of time. We had a bit of a heat wave last summer in the UK and this one ended up being completely fine. Didn't have a problem with it being like 32 degrees inside of my home. Yeah, it was really, really hot. And this one was absolutely fine with it and didn't falter at all. You do want to be careful with lower temperatures though. Anything below 10 degrees Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit and it could stunt the growth of your plant and cause permanent damage. So avoid too cold situations. You can let this one summer outside if you live in a climate that will permit it, but be careful again with the harsh sun and make sure you bring it in before the temperatures start to drop in autumn, because I think this one would absolutely love being outside in the UK during summer. I don't have the outside space for it, but if you do, it might be a good idea. Higher humidity is ideal for your banana plants. If it gets too low, it can cause your leaves to like curl up, crisp, and rip, which is not ideal. The leaves are somewhat fragile, so you don't want that. Of course, it is a fast grower, so they'll be replaced hopefully very quickly, but if we can avoid going too low in humidity, that would be better. My home personally tends to be about 60% humidity, like baseline, no added extras, and this one seems to be loving that, having no problems at the minute. If your home is lower than that, you can supplement humidity by putting it on a pebble tray. You can group it with other plants, which naturally boost the humidity, or if you have several plants that need a bit of a boost, you can get something like a humidifier to kind of do a more thorough all-around boost of humidity. Especially during the growing season, your banana plant could be growing quite quickly and you will want to regularly fertilize it to help it with that nutrition. So maybe fertilizing something like once a week in the spring and summer could be really helpful for your plant. You'll probably want to slow down in the autumn and winter or stop completely. I personally continue fertilizing throughout autumn and winter if my plant is continuing to grow. You can see mine has a new leaf in there. It is still growing, so I am still fertilizing it. But if it were to stop growing, I would stop fertilizing it because you can cause issues like fertilizer burn if you're fertilizing a plant that is no longer growing or going dormant, which is fairly normal, but I haven't had any instances of this plant going dormant at all, so I wouldn't really worry about it for your banana plant. I personally use liquid gold leaf fertilizer. It's what I use on everything, and because it is a houseplant focused fertilizer, I use it at full strength, and that is not a problem. If you are using an all-purpose fertilizer, you might want to reduce the strength down to half strength because they can be quite harsh on plants. So if you're using an all-purpose, do that. I personally would get a houseplant focused fertilizer if you can, just because it makes it easier and your houseplants will love it. If you are in the UK and you want to try liquid gold leaf, I have an affiliate link down below. I totally suggest you try it. It is my favorite fertilizer. This isn't sponsored by them, but I genuinely love their products and I find that my plants do as well. So give it a go. It's some good stuff, but obviously no pressure. If you have your own fertilizer routine, use that and that should be fine. A well-draining but also moisture retentive soil is the best for a banana plant. They are thirsty creatures, so they do want to hold some moisture in their soil. I personally have not changed the soil mine is in from when I got it. Because of all the issues that I was having earlier on with the plant, I decided it didn't need to be repot yet, so I just have it in its original potting mix. If I were to repot it now, I'd probably use something that is maybe made for calatheas and marantas, something with like vermiculite and water retaining ingredients, but I'd also add some bark in there so it has good drainage as well. You want it to be fairly even and you don't want it to like hold too much but also drain too much. This one kind of does need that balance in there. I'll probably end up repotting this one in the spring or summer. It depends on its growing. I'm gonna wait for it to get a bit bigger before that. It still looks slightly unproportional. The pot is a bit big for it right now, but I know this one has a good root system, so I'm not worried about it at all. They do also like to have a bit more of a roomy pot. They don't necessarily like to be pot bound. So once your plant is established, you'll probably be repotting it maybe like once a year or so. If you're growing from a baby plant, like one of these pups or something, you'll probably want to repot like 2 or 3 times a year because they will up that pot size quite quickly in their like early stages of life. And of course, drainage holes are a must. Pot it in something with drainage holes and you'll probably have a bit more luck with it. So you can't really propagate banana plants through stem and leaf cuttings like you can with some other plants, but they produce pups or offsets and those can be divided off of the plant. The best time to divide that up would be when you are repotting. If you notice that one of the pups in there has some decent roots on it, you want it to have some roots ideally, otherwise it could fail when you take it off the mother plant. But if the pup does have some good roots, you can chop it off with a clean sharp knife and then pot it up in your medium of choice, probably some nice balanced well draining kind of soil, and it will like that. And like I said, you'll probably want to pot it up quite a few times in that first year or so because it will be going quite rapidly. Like these ones have grown so much since I've had them. Another amazing thing about the banana plant is that it is non-toxic, woo, to humans and pets. So this is a great pet safe plant if you want to have like tropical vibes in your home with your pets. This one is ideal for that. There's no problem with your pets having a bit of a nibble on this, or your kids. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. It wouldn't be something that I would choose to eat, but you can, and it won't like cause any sort of gastrointestinal issues that a lot of other tropical houseplants might cause. So you can keep this within your reach of pets and children. Personally, Cleo has had absolutely no interest in this plant. It sits quite close to where she likes to sit on a windowsill, and she could care less about it. So although she could eat it, she doesn't, which is great. So that is it. That is everything you need to know in order to take care of your beautiful banana plant. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. Any other houseplants you'd like me to make care videos of, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!